Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Well, good morning from me, too. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and today we are discussing coming to America, opera tricks, and a guest on the phone, all on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. Ah, yes. Once again, the trilogy of insanity has shown up. Stan, Steve, and yours truly. 3 weeks in a row. That's fantastic. This is all becoming a habit. But anyway, thanks, Stan, for coming in today on last minute's notice because Zach...
Wait till you see my bill, baby. I got no work done today.
We're going to triple your fee, your normal fee, okay?
My normal fee? I'll take half my normal fee for you because you're sweet.
That's half from nothing, so there you go. We're not talking
about
your fee at work.
Wait till you see the invoice, baby.
We're talking about the Lumen Brothers fee. Anyway, today we actually have a live guest ask a question for us. And before we get started with Kevin, I just want to say that if anyone out there is interested in being on our show and asking us live, Stump the Chumps, your question, then please just contact Stan at...
Oh, yes. My email, STANKAYE, don't forget the E, at iCloud.com. And hopefully it'll work because I've been spending the last 2 days with broken email and address books with David Jocks' in my address book 16 times.
Oh, that's frightening.
And I've spent an hour yesterday with Apple and all morning today I've gotten no consulting work done because I'm in email contacts hell. So get the email right.
Well, there you go. That's STANKAYE. One word, right, Stan?
That's correct. No space in between the first and last name.
Any sort of special capitalizations?
No, not case sensitive.
And what color should the font be?
I personally like Century Gothic, but more importantly, I like to make my Century Gothic.
Okay.
I like to go into the advanced preferences and I expand it and I use something. Since you brought it up, I don't know if I've ever talked about it on this show. But since you asked, kerning. Kearning. Kerning is the beautiful thing that topography people, not topography, what are they called?
Topographers, aren't they?
Calligraphers?
Calligraphers.
For the word calligrapher?
Not calligraphers, but people who study fonts. They have a name. I can't think of their name. But basically, for every...
Fontologist.
A fontologist, there you go. So like a proctologist, but using fonts instead.
A proctologist. But here's the point. So kerning, for every font has very specific spacing between each letter. And it's not the same between each letter. It's really quite a precise little art form. And you can go in there and you can change the spacing between the letters, expanded or contracted. And so if you want people to be more relaxed when they read your stuff, use an expanded kerning, and it will slow people down and feel more relaxed. On the other hand, if you want to stress them out and make what you're saying hard to read, just go the other way and contract the kerning, Kearning. So I like Century Gothic with a 1.2 to 1.3 kerning expanded factor in my fonts.
That is more information than I asked for, but that's all right. Thank you.
Well,
I actually asked for color. Do you want black? Do you want puce? Do you want like salmon? What colored font do you like?
Color?
Yes, color. That's the question I asked. But anyway, let's move on. Let's get on with the show. Moving on.
Let's
Thank
get
you
on with
so
the
much.
show.
Moving on. So today we have a special guest today, Kevin from Boston. He actually wrote us a question and said, hey, I would like to ask this on the show. So come on, Kevin. So Kevin, you have a question for Stan.
I do. And you know how hard it is to sit back here and listen to your conversation and not jump in?
You can jump in. You're on now,
do you have
buddy.
a favorite font too? Do you kern your font?
Well, first of all, what part of Boston are you from? Are you close to the garage?
No, I'm not from Boston. I'm from the North Shore. I'm way up near New Hampshire.
All right. I want to say something. For someone in Boston, you have zero accent. You do not have a Boston accent.
It took a lot of, electric shock therapy to work that out of my system so I can work more universally.
Okay. There you go.
It was tough, but
we're
it's
going
over
to
now.
bring a little bit of car
You're not
talk
related to
on the show.
Whitey Bulger, are you?
All right. So on with your question, Kevin.
Anyway, so I guess I'm one of those sort of midlife crisis types who took forever to realize what I wanted to do when I grow up. So in my 40s, I made a big change to begin working in theater production again. And for the past several years, I've worked primarily with high schools, which is sort of my wheelhouse. It's where I like to be at this point. Though having never really received any formal training in design, unless you consider 250 episodes of Light Talk formal, which I mean I do.
Hey, that's quite a tolerance level.
We'll call that formal. I would like a degree from this.
Well, we may be informal, but we are cheap. So there you go.
You're cheap.
Not me. David is. David's free.
Well, Light Talk is cheap. Anyway.
So there's a few aspects that I haven't really heard anybody talk about, and mostly I'm really interested in hearing what your workflow looks like from when you accept the job through opening night. Like when do you choose and finalize a color palette, particularly when you're trying to work around costume and scenic elements and when they're finalized? When do you begin cueing? Can you write cues prior to sitting in our rehearsals? And how would you do that? Because it sounds and it feels kind of like that you do that having listened to past episodes, of course. When do you develop your plot? When do you finalize your plot? Things like that.
Wow, you're asking
I'm
me,
asking all of you.
the guy who's not doing so much stage lighting anymore. I don't know. Listening to your question is kind of complex, and I don't think there's a simple answer. I think you're going to get a different response from all of us. I'll start broad and then try and narrow. I think broadly it's kind of haphazard, to be honest, because I think it's project dependent. And I think I'm a bit of a chameleon, so I try to become accustomed to whatever, let's say, when Rome do as the Romans, So what is the circumstance within which I'm working? So also there's sort of this intuitive thing about feeling ready. So because I think it's not engineering. I mean, there's an engineering piece to what we do. It is technical. But I think because you're really asking questions about when does the art decision happen, where in the timeline of production from getting the contract to opening night do you do certain things? I think there's a broad score, if you will, that we would probably all agree on about when certain things happen. There's going to be a schedule from production management about when the deliverables are due. But I think there's a certain rhythm that you get into on each production as information is coming to you, and then when the spirit says, "Oh, you know what? Right now, I think it's a good time to lay down lights. I feel ready." That might be different from production to production because they're not all the same. Sometimes they're chaotic, and sometimes they're really organized. Sometimes the information is flowing well. Sometimes it's flowing for you, and ideas are coming. And sometimes it's a dearth. Like I really need to be doing something because I'm looking at the calendar and I see my plot is due in a week and a half. And I don't feel ready to put it down, either because the blocking is not solidified, the set designer is changing their mind, I haven't seen costume renderings, or on the other hand, you could be 3 months out from needing a light plot, and let's say it's over the summer, and let's use David for an example, and he gets a set design and a costume design for an opera that he's doing in June, but he gets the stuff in March. And he can sit on it and marinate about it and look at it and then wait until the spirit moves you to sit down and start plotting.
It seems like it continues to be organic and it changes for every production, really.
It does. But it's organic within a structure because certain people need certain things at certain times. If David's at a big opera, place in Italy, stuff's got to be there. They got to work. There's people waiting in a union situation. So you do have to sort of know how to meet the deadline or deliver on time. And as you get more experience, you can kind of say, well, I know what it's due. I'm going to procrastinate this a little bit. I'm going to kick the can, but you're kicking the can knowing you're kicking the can. And there's a certain confidence that you might have. I know I can crank this out in 2 days. So if I don't feel ready because I need information or my instincts are just not moving, I think that's fair. But at the same time, you can really get screwed if you slack off. I mean, you can't slack off. The structure, you do have to follow the structure because there is a calendar.
Yeah, and it's okay. And Stan really answered that really well. I don't know how much more I have to say, except the fact that every show you do from the time you're in school, usually all the way through times you're doing Broadway shows and huge operas and stuff like that, you will, in your contract, there will be delivery dates. They'll say, we expect you to have, the light plot done by this date, or the preliminary plot by this date, the final plot by that date. Load in will be this date. You'll have 20 hours to focus. You'll have, all that is on, schedule and usually in your contract. So you know what dates of residency you're going to be there, all that. Now, that being said, every show is different. There are some directors I work with for years before the show. And even though we may have the set design and the costume designs done, the lighting doesn't have to be done when those set designs have to be done, because they still have to go out for bid. They have to go into the shop and all other stuff. That takes months and months and months and months. And then it takes months to build them. These shows are huge. So my lighting can be a little bit later. So I am a lot more flexible. Lighting designers have a lot more flexibility. But yeah, it changes with every single show. So I think Stan answered that really well.
Well, I was just thinking, I was taking some notes here. I've cranked out, well, let me say, I walk in two worlds, right? So I walk in a commercial theater world and I walk in an academic world. So my commercial work does not take as much time as my academic work does. So I was just looking at my schedule. The last 20 years, I've done 60 plays outside in regional theaters, and 38 of those have been new scripts. So I'm pretty interested in developing new scripts and not doing, the 15th production of whatever play. And what I find by doing new work, the plot is always kind of a moving target. The color palette's a moving target. The playwright is writing. The director is cutting scenes and wanting scenes added. So it is a different kind of process. And actually, I go into preview. Let me think. We're recording this on a Tuesday. I go into preview next Wednesday. So 7-ish days away. And last night, which is Equity Night Off, I got a message saying the translucency drop has been cut from the show, and they're going to go to a painted opaque drop. So it's absolutely a moving target. Panic phone call last night to the electrician. Okay, here's our plan. This is what we're going to do, because, that's a major change. So I think thinking on your feet, I think that's where you're kind of going with the question. I think, yes, you can prepare as much as you can possibly prepare, and there's all kinds of methodology to that. But I think also thinking on your feet is really important, and recognizing that a change is neither good nor bad. It's just a change. And you can have your pity party a week after the show opens up. But right now, you've got to make a decision. I tell my students the road is paved with flat squirrels that can't make a decision. So, you just got to move on. But it's for me, the new work, color is a moving target. I have a palette that I think I'm going to work with, and we think we're going to work with. But just as things change, there are costume changes, there are characters being added or cut, or it's organic. And I like that aspect of new work a lot. So that's kind of how I think I approach what you're asking about.
Can I pick up on one thing Steve said that I really liked? And I want to emphasize and also add something too about decisions. And I had this issue with young designers. They agonize over the decision because they think the decision, it's like that, what's that, Family Feud? No, what was that game? Is that your final decision? Just make a decision and keep making them. They're not final. Nothing's final till opening night. So not to say you shouldn't be an organized person, but just keep making decisions, knowing that if they don't seem to work, you can change them. Lighting is not built, it's not in concrete. It's very, very malleable up until, and it gets less malleable. I think of it like plaster. Of course, that tech week, it gets harder and harder and harder. But until that plaster is completely hard, you can change things.
Yeah, except if your director doesn't want you to change things. And some directors, they want you to freeze the lighting at a certain point. At that point, you don't make any changes. You take notes And if it's a little thing, like you want, a little more light here or there, and the director doesn't see it, then that's okay. You can make a subtle change, but nothing that's going to screw up the light cues. Definitely not. Okay.
And we want them to freeze the blocking.
Oh, yeah, but that never happens.
Which they're always reluctant to do. And let me say, and I'll just throw one caveat in. So let's say we all agree we're going to freeze things at certain points. But if somebody has a brilliant stroke of genius in the last minute, there's a great story in David Hayes' book on, can't think of his name. I think it's Light on the Subject. And he describes this moment on a Broadway show. And the whole design team gets this brilliant stroke of genius. And they're like the night before opening the show. And they unfreeze, they thaw for a moment, and they make that change. And it saved the show. So it's not to say there aren't exceptions to the rule, but I would agree with David. As a rule, yeah, when we freeze things, they should pretty much stay frozen. But frozen things can be thawed if necessary.
So, Kevin, do you have anything that we didn't answer besides the secrets of the universe?
No, I think that was great. I really appreciate it. That's a lot of good information, except for the flat squirrel thing. I don't really understand that, but still.
Well, that should be a flat armadillo in Steve's world. But thank you very much for being one of our listeners, and thanks for calling into the show today.
Thank you.
So,
yeah, really, we're encouraging others to get up the gumption and
come on in. So anyway, Kevin in Ohio asks, are there any special lighting tips
whoa. I'm sorry, David. Hang on. We have another call in.
What?
We have another call in.
All right, somebody's calling in. This is incredible. Who's calling in?
Snoot.
Oh my God.
Snoot is here.
Snoot's here.
That's Miss Snoot to you, David.
Snoot has called in. Oh my God. Snoot, who is our great paralegal from our law firm of Flex,
I better start
Flare,
hiding
and
my
Glare.
top secret, my classified papers.
That's right. She's still doing that. So Snoot, what do we owe this pleasure of your call?
Well, I listened to the show, and I think some apologies were on my way.
Whoa.
What are you sorry about? Go ahead and apologize now.
Yeah, we're there. We're here. You can apologize to us.
From you.
Oh, you mean from last week's show? Yes, we did talk about this because we did read your letter on the show last week.
Yeah, and I heard you wanted to apologize.
Yes, we do. Let's Stan.
I'm so sorry. In so many ways, I can't even. I am sorry. Let me count the ways. There are just so many ways. Is there really a way to say you're sorry? I think that what's his name said it best in Love Story. Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Yeah, be careful, Stan. You're ready. Real gray water here.
But I am very sorry for if I ever said anything to offend thee.
Oh, that's a half apology. You know what you said. We talked about it on the show last week about Snoot's height. I'm
short.
I know you're short. We talked about this on the show. but in a way, that's a beautiful thing because you and Snoot have that in common. So she's getting through life with the same type of challenges that you had, or similar at least in one aspect of height.
You don't know the trouble I've seen, Snoot.
All right, well, I guess I'll have to forgive you.
Oh, you'll have to.
Thank you.
Well, Snoot.
I appreciate that. It feels, you have to sort of sometimes face the music and ask for forgiveness. And so thank you for that.
All right.
All right. Well, Snoot, all I have to say is there's a pile of legal briefs on your desk that we need dealt with right away, ASAP.
And a fez in the mail.
And a fez. And we have to.
And what about that raise you guys talked about last week?
Oh, right.
You mentioned taking care of me.
Yeah, we did mention that. And you are being paid the measly sum
in rubles.
Rubles.
In rubles.
No. She's getting minimum wage. And I think this is a problem with...
That's insulting.
I think this is a problem with Fleck, Flock, Flare, and Glare. Because those cats, they're making bank.
They're taking too much.
They're making bank. Yeah. I saw Glare the other
true.
day in a Ferrari, by the way.
I bet it was glary, too.
It was glare. So it's red. And I think that we need to help out Snoot some way. So
I think there should be some kind of pain and suffering compensation.
Okay. And what do you
Sounds
think?
like a GoFundMe page.
Yeah, do a GoFundMe. That's a good idea. I'll contribute. We'll take care of you, Snoot. Don't worry. We love you, Snoot. You have pulled us out of many, many situations, as you said in your letter, and we will take care of you. I can't give you a number.
Here's a promise. If you come to LDI, we will get you the presidential suite at whichever casino you want.
Good, because as a matter of fact, I am going to LDI.
That's right.
Okay.
Maybe she'll be on
It's the presidential
panel.
suite for you.
You know, the one that's probably best is Circus. I would go to Circus. $49.95
I think there's a wax
presidential
figure
suite.
of Frank Sinatra in there.
I thought that the one at the Stratosphere is better, but that's it can be Circus at that. We'll take care of you, Snoot. Just send your bill to Stan K.
At iCloud.com.
care of Light Talk Central, 1250 Alligator Way, Gainesville, Florida. And that's in our
And make sure you use Century Gothic.
Century Gothic. Thanks, Snoot, for being on the show today. It was
Thank you,
great.
See you in
Snoot.
Vegas.
See you in
See you in
Vegas,
Vegas.
See ya.
I will be there, baby.
Who are you calling baby?
Oops, I said baby. I should have said baby. Oh, God. Oh, no. Okay.
But now you're in trouble.
See you later. Wow. Do you believe that? Snoot called into the show. Man.
This show is getting out of hand, but okay.
And she just hung up. She wasn't
know she hung
interested
up.
in the
She's
rest of the
pissed.
recording.
I don't think
She's got
she's
stuff to do.
Yeah, well, she has those briefs. We're trying to trademark the Light Talk Fez, by the way. And there's a lot involved when you trademark things. And I'm glad, Stan, you didn't mention to her about the trademark issue. Thank you very much. That was a big bad
Well, I'm not going to dig the hole any deeper than I'm in.
I thought you did great, Stan. That was wonderful. That was beautiful. I was crying. I have a tear. I definitely have a tear. All right, let's move on with the show. Kevin in Ohio asks, are there any special lighting tips for lighting an opera? I know in musicals it is common to use a button, or in rock and roll, haze and shins are vital in dance. Any secrets to opera? Well, okay.
This one's for you, David.
There's a secret, but I'm not going to tell you. There's no secrets. I guess the biggest secret is follow the music. The music tells the story in the opera, and it's like following the script in a play, and you follow the music. I must say, though, by categorizing lighting techniques to different genres, I don't believe in. I don't believe that, shins, in dance, you must have shins. I've done dance with no shins. Right? Didn't call for shins. So you're not going to use shins. If I didn't want to use that angle, I didn't put it on the plot. A lot of times I use shins for plays. I use them in opera. So there's no like magic lighting position or technique that is, typical for a certain genre. And the same thing is true for opera. So special lighting tips, all I can say is follow the music. How about you guys? You have anything?
I do, but not for me. I've been setting up some of my sabbatical work, and I was, confirming with our good friends, Jeff Ravitz and Mark Brickman, who are in California, to have some time together. And I went, and Mark did a new website, and on his website, he has an artist statement that I really liked. And he said, he heard a story when somebody was thinking about hiring him, and the person wrote on a piece of paper next to his name, risk, right? And taking risks. And then the other thing that he wrote was that he became known for, I guess, was what if? What if we do this? What happens if we do that? And I think that's what you're, to the point of what David's saying. There's no way you have to do things, right? What if you try this? You don't know what the result's going to be. It's like working in a laboratory. Just don't blow anything up, but but try things. What if? You'll never know what it might do if you use something from something else. And my friend Heather Carson used to use all these huge architectural weird lights on operas, right? It's like, what if we try that? What happens when we do that? And you make discoveries, and you sort of surprise yourself and surprise your colleagues.
Right. We should have Heather on the show.
We should have Heather on the
she
show.
lives.
What a great idea!
It's crazy. Heather is known for that. She blew me away with a lot of the shows I've seen that she lit.
Yeah, she kind of broke the glass for that
she
kind of
of
stuff.
did. She was really kind of ahead of her time. But yeah, you're right. There's no rules, okay? Try things. And if it doesn't work, you just don't use it. Don't be afraid that someone's going to say, oh, you had these lights, you never used them. Screw them. I mean, they were there for a reason, and the idea changed. The show changed. Don't worry about it.
Make a decision and change it if it doesn't work, like we said to Kevin's
Listen, if
question.
someone's ever given you flack about a light or a series of light or a system of lights that you haven't used, then in one queue, bring them all to like 8% and then take them out in the next queue. I've done that. Anyway, okay.
Deb in Berlin writes, I want to work in America. Any advice on getting started? Well, good luck. It's like, I want to work in, Switzerland. Good luck. The problem that you're facing is each country has kind of restrictions on who can work in that country. If you're serious about this, there's a couple ways of doing it. One way is to find yourself a company in Germany that's going to tour America. And you come here and you start to meet some people. Once that is done, I think you take a look at applying for a job here. The first thing you have to do to apply for a job in America is build yourself an American-style resume and a cover letter. So take a look at how we kind of build resumes. Your cover letter is a letter of interest, and you start contacting entertainment organizations in the United States. What will happen is what we're really talking about is a sponsorship. So if you write, Alabama Shakespeare Festival, and you convince them that you're someone who should come in and do a show for them, then if they sponsor you, it's not that difficult to get into the country to do a show. Another way of doing it is check with the American Embassy there in Berlin and see if you can find yourself a temporary visa. And there are probably a half a dozen different types of temporary visas, and that allows you into the country to start looking for work. That doesn't mean you can stay the rest of your life, but you can get in here and take a look at some different theaters to work with. And then finally, the other thing that if you're going to be here for a while, what you need is a green card. Again, a green card is a document that allows a foreign national to live and work in the United States permanently. There's a couple other methods, but a sponsorship is probably the way you want to work your way in. Maybe there is a director from the United States who's working in the theater you're working in, and you convince he or she that you are the go-to lighting designer for their next production in, Chicago. And that can go a long way to finding you a sponsorship to come over and work on a temporary basis. So I think the first step is people. You contact people who are here that that you've worked with, and then you go by the American Embassy and you start asking questions there about the legal way to come into the country. What do you guys think?
Well, I think the sponsorship is the way of doing it, and that's the way that it's always done. If a Broadway producer wants you to work in the United States, you will be working in the United States. Unless you're like a Russian agent, or something like that. You will be working in the United States. When I do a show in Europe, usually, if it's in Italy or Spain or whatever, I need a letter of invitation from the company to the embassy, basically saying, we would like this man to have a visa to work for our company. Never, ever, by the way, and this is really important, some companies will say, well, just come over on a tourist visa. They'll never know. We'll pay you under the table. Never do that. Don't do that. That's nothing but trouble. Nothing but trouble. Do it the right way. Like, even when I work in Canada, I just had to send my passport to the Canadian government so that they can give me a new tax number. And I don't know where that passport is. It's I assume they got it. It was registered mail. But this is part of the process. You just need to do it and do it early enough. Okay? If someone says, we want you to do a show for next year, you can't start too early on your visa. You really can't. So you may have to follow up with the producers and say, hey, I need that letter going to the consulate. I need that so that I can get that visa. Because sometimes it takes 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. Who knows? It's bureaucracy. It's crazy. But again, yes, you will be able to work here. But don't expect to work here regularly as like a U.S. citizen, as I couldn't go to Canada and work as a Canadian citizen.
You are listening to Light Talk, and today Light Talk is sponsored by...
All the way from south of the border, it's Bad Hombre Stage Productions. You know, sometimes tension can run a little high at a 10 out of 12. A sound cue gets called late. The follow spot can't seem to find the correct actor, and the director, well, just insulted the playwright. As you can see, things can get out of hand fast and feelings could be hurt. But before it comes to that, let Bad Hombre Stage Productions come to the rescue with La Luce Libre de Brazo. You heard me right. An arm wrestling kit. You will get a piece of chalk and 2 sharp knives. Draw a circle. Place the knives in the patented holders and let the fun begin. Now the LD and the stage manager can settle that calling conflict with honor. Watch the costume designer take on the TD over that rough floor that just ripped to him. Cheer as the playwright draws first blood. With the director, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Le Luce Libre de Brazo, only from Bad Hombre Stage Productions.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those rabid, sex-craved monkeys tells us that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about expanding the definition of the term designer. Now, this is something that Stan just wrote, said, hey, let's do it, let's talk about. I'm just really curious. I want to talk about this. So Stan, why did you request this subject?
I don't even remember doing that. Did I do that?
I got it on my email. It says here, hey, how about this for LTA? Expanding the definition of designer.
Are you sure Snoot didn't send that and just forged his name?
Maybe Snoot
kind of
did.
payback, Snoot payback.
I thought that Stan did. Oh my God.
I don't know why I would have. What was the context in which I would have said?
Maybe I was hallucinating.
Oh, because I don't think we're just lighting designers.
Okay.
Maybe that's what I was thinking.
I think that's what we're thinking about.
let me throw this against the wall and see what happens. I think that and maybe we're sort of, in some ways, we have allowed ourselves to be, because we came later. There was set design, and then there was costume design, and then there was, then in 1970, lighting design became a thing. Electricity came later. Man-made light came later. So we think of ourselves maybe a bit pigeonholed. And I was thinking about some of the work that I'm doing these days, and I'm having a contribution in design areas where I'm not necessarily trained, but I don't want to call myself just a lighting designer anymore. When someone asks me, what do? I think I'm more comfortable now saying I'm a designer in a broad sense. That's what I spent my life doing, working with other designers. And lighting is just one specialty. Not that I'm saying I'm going to go out and design costumes tomorrow. I'm not, but I'm working in a world where my design sensibilities are welcomed, and it's not just in lighting. And then let me just throw that out there.
No, that's what I thought it would be. I mean, I consider myself a stage designer, not necessarily a lighting designer or set designer. Even though I do those things, I consider myself and my colleagues stage designers.
But designer is a much broader kind of thing and I think maybe it creates in the mind a sense of fluidity that, especially for young people, rather than say to them, I'm a designer and I'm going to, you could be designing fonts. You can, there are a lot of things that are design, and actually topography is a really fascinating field. I was talking to somebody today, my Apple expert, who super advisor, about Steve Jobs, who fell in love with calligraphy, and that led to the Mac because he wanted printers that could do beautiful fonts, not just dot matrix. And so Was Steve Jobs a designer? Yeah, he was. Right. That was what made Apple. So I think it just expands our kind of definition of ourselves if we think of ourselves as designers.
Yeah, but it's not a universal expansion where, I'm not a network designer, and I'm certainly,
right, or a submarine designer for that matter,
a ship
either,
designer,
right?
but a stage designer, right, or a live entertainment designer, or a who knows? But you're right. I get it. Right, and that's the thing. With the union, they have all these categories. Your lighting designer, your set designer, your projection designer,
and that's necessary for
designer,
commerce. Yeah,
and then you could be all categories, or you even could be like I am, set designer and lighting designer, or whatever. It's crazy. I just think we are all designers, and we're all part of the production team, which is a group of designers, musicians, and everyone else. So yeah.
I mean, for the purposes of commerce and sort of, you need those definitions and categories. Yeah. But in terms of self-identification, what I was thinking of is I think of myself now more as a designer than even just a stage designer, because I'm not even doing that anymore.
Yeah. So Steve, what do you think of yourself as?
A visual artist.
There you go. I like that.
That's how I think of myself.
That's even better. The hell with designers, we're visual artists. That's great. I love it.
Yeah. That's a broader definition. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how do you promote that?